everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. My name is Cory, and this is part number 4 in my top 50 favorite board games of all time series. On this list, I go over my 35 down to 31 favorite games. Let's get started.
Number 35.
All right, and my number 35 favorite game of all time is my favorite stock market style game, and it's fairly light to middleweight and has got a lot of really neat decision making and strategies going on with this one, and that game is Stockpile. So, in Stockpile, you've got obviously these different stocks that you're bidding for to gain them for the least amount of money and then resell them for a higher value, like in classic stock market fashion. But what's really neat about this game is that at the beginning of every round, you've got these basically hidden information cards that you know and nobody else knows on how the market is going to do. So you might know that a particular stock is going to go up or down depending on what card is in your hand, but other players have hidden information about the other stocks. There are other stock cards that aren't in anybody's hand, so you don't necessarily know who's going to play to what. And basically you've got these different zones that you're placing your stock cards. Depending on the information that you have. There is some revealed information that everybody knows, and then obviously the hidden information from your hand as well. So you're kind of playing off of both, and you're also playing off of what other players are doing to try to guess whether or not a stock is going to be going up or going to be going down. So how that's going to kind of work is that there's going to be these different columns that you can place cards in. So on your turn, you have to play one card face up and one card face down. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the same column. You can place it in different columns, but basically you're building these different columns that you will be bidding on against other players later in that round. So you give one revealed information face up and one hidden piece of information that nobody else knows, and you play that face down. All the other players do that where they place in different columns, and at the end of that round, like I said, you actually place your worker on one of those spots to bid a certain dollar amount for that stack of cards. So based on the revealed information, you're basically bidding what dollar amount you feel it will get you the best bang for your buck and the best value for that column. So that's really a lot of fun. What's really cool too is in some of the hidden cards, you can actually place basically these negative cards that make people just pay in. Basically like a bust, and you just have to pay into the market and there's nothing else you can do about it. So that's really fun too, where you can kind of tell when people are trying to stack a certain column a certain way. They might tip you off a certain way to where they're stacking it in their benefit with hidden information that you don't know in order to win that stack for the least amount of money. But you know, you can kind of tell what they're doing sometimes based on their body language or based on how high they're bidding. If you get outbid, you actually get your worker back to your hand so you can rebid on something else. So how high somebody starts off with or how aggressively they're bidding towards one of those columns might give away some information as well. And you're basically just toying with the idea on how much money do you want to pay for that stack of cards. Like I said too, you reveal your hidden information for your stock cards at the end of the round too, so stocks will go up and down based on those cards, and then basically you can sell those stock cards for that value at the end of the round. So if you played it aggressively and were able to get one of the columns that had some really high value stocks in it, you can then sell them for even more money at the end of the round. Whoever has the most money at the end of the game wins after a certain number of rounds. And yeah, just a great game overall. And even if you don't like stock market games, I would give this one a shot. Like I said, my favorite stock market game of all time, Stockpile.
Number 34.
All right, and my number 34 game was number 29 last year, so it just dropped 5 places, so it's still in a really good spot. Still love this game. A little bit of a caveat though, its first iteration was on the list at 29 last year, and now actually I like the third iteration of this game even better than the first two, yet it still dropped 5 places. So still in a good spot though at number 34, and that is Azul Summer Pavilion. So in Azul Summer Pavilion, like its predecessors, you are placing tiles on your own player board. You've got this central board that tiles are placed out on as well. and you're basically drafting the different tiles that you want for your board. In Summer Pavilion, it's more interesting to me because you are actually surrounding these different statues or different icons to get you these bonuses. You've got wild tiles, and there's just more going on in this iteration of the game. In the regular base game, or the first iteration of Azul, it was basically you're dealing with just columns and rows. In Summer Pavilion, you're dealing with almost these like snowflake pavilion patterns around your player board, and it's just a whole lot of fun, and it just feels more puzzly in this iteration of the game, and that's what I like most about that. You're placing tiles down, like I said, based on the color in certain regions of your board, and if it's the first tile you place down, you get 1 victory point for it. If you place down another tile next to it, you get a point for that tile and the one adjacent to it, so you get 2 points. So you're kind of building off of the tiles that have already been previously placed in earlier turns, as well as like I said, surrounding these statue icons that are in the middle of each of the pavilions as well, and that'll get you some bonuses. The wild tiles really help a lot to fulfill what you're going after too, because in these different snowflake patterns, it costs you anywhere from 1 to I believe 5 different or 5 tiles in order to place 1 tile there. So it gets pretty expensive in some of these. You might have to gather 5 red tiles just to place 1 tile on the 5 spot. Whereas other spots may only cost 1 or 2 tiles to place it there. So you're really kind of balancing when you're going to grab what specific color tile to place when on your board, and really playing into the fact that if you know that a lot of one color has already come up and you still have those higher value tiles left to place, you're pretty certain that there won't be enough of that color tile in the future to gather enough to really spend the cost for those spots. So you might kind of want to ditch that color and go after something different, and just like I said, a whole lot of strategy in this, and has some really good endgame scoring as well. So like I said, my favorite version of Azul, the third one, just so happens to be the newest one, but that's not always the case, but it is with Azul Summer Pavilion.
Number 33.
All right, and my number 33 game was actually game number 50 last year. So it's gone up 17 places, and I attribute that to the expansions that have come out. Since I first put this game on the list, there's just been so many great expansions and so much expansion content to this game that has just really enhanced the level of this. This is one of those games, it's a little bit unique because I don't think this game would necessarily make my top 50 favorite games of all time. It might still make my top 100, but it probably wouldn't make my top 50 if it weren't for those expansions. And that's a little bit of a unique case, but it is what it is. And that game is Downforce. So Downforce, a game by the publisher Restoration Games. They're known for taking older games, more classics, maybe from the 70s, 80s, or 90s, and revamping them, not only with artwork, but revamping the gameplay as well, and the mechanisms, and modernizing the way the game is played. Downforce is one of these games. Came out years ago, had a couple different iterations throughout the last 20 to 30 years, and now this newest version from Restoration Games is just amazing. Like I said, the base game doesn't have a whole lot of replayability to it, but with the expansions, basically each expansion adds more tracks, and the tracks get really unique and really fun. The other thing I like about Downforce is that you're not only bidding on your car to win the race, you can bid on any car you want. So I could bid on this person's car, that person's car to win the race, and while still maintaining a good position for my car too, because you get money at the end of the race depending on your car, how your car finishes, first, second, third, fourth, so on and so forth. And you also get money at the end of the race for where you placed your bets for who you thought was going to win the race. So if you see somebody's pulling ahead, that's not your car, you could bet on their car to win the whole race and get a bunch of extra money that way. Whoever has the most money at the end of the race wins. You've got 3 different betting lines around the track. When the front car passes one of the betting lines, you place your bets on who you think is going to win the race. Bet number 2, when one car passes that line, you bet again. And then finally, the line number 3, you bet on that. And it's a whole lot of fun because you're not only stuck with what cards you have in your hand or just your card that you bid on at the beginning of the game. you're not only trying to win the race, you're really trying to bet on who you think's going to win based on their position. And like I forgot to mention too, how those cars go around the track is it's a very simple mechanism. I love how simplistic the mechanisms are in this game too. You just have a hand of cards at the beginning of the game, and you place a card down and you resolve it from top to bottom. You have these different colored lines with different values, and whatever value that color is how far you move that color car on the track. So if it's got a red 5, you move the red car 5 spaces. If the next one down is a blue 3, then you move the blue car 3 spaces, and so on and so forth. And like I said, it's a whole lot of fun. There's a whole lot of blocking in this game. There's some bottlenecks and some different terrain that you're trying to block people in or corner people in to help move past them. And yeah, a whole lot of positioning and a whole lot of fun. That is Downforce.
Number 32.
My number 32 favorite game of all time is said to be Star Wars in a Box, and that is completely true, 110%. It does not disappoint if you are a fan of Star Wars, and that game is Star Wars Rebellion. The expansion to Star Wars Rebellion really helps this game a lot too. It streamlines combat and makes it more fun for the combat side of things, but really the base game is great as well. Let's see where it showed up on my list here last year. So it was 37 on my list last year, and now it's 32. So it actually has gone up 5 spots, and that's because I have gotten multiple plays of it over the last year, and I've enjoyed every play of it. It is a game that lasts on the longer side, so you need at least maybe 3.5 hours of time to play it. It says it's a 2 to 4 player game, depending on if you want to play teams or not, but really it's a 1v1. I would say a 2-player game through and through. I don't know how fun it would be. I've never tried it with 4 players doing 2v2, but I don't know. I'll have to try that sometime, but really it's a 1v1 game at heart. And in Star Wars Rebellion, obviously one person's the Rebellion, one person's the Empire, and the Rebellion starts off with a hidden secret base on one of the planets where the Empire doesn't know where that base is, and the Empire is basically spending the game trying to go from planet to planet and stomp on the little guy, just to try to find out where that rebel base is. If the Empire can find what planet the hidden base is on and destroy that base, they win the game. If the Rebellion can complete these missions to basically push along the timer on the track faster to meet the Empire token, if they can do that before the Empire finds their base and destroys it, then the Rebellion wins. So it's kind of a cat and mouse game, kind of some hidden information style game too, which is a lot of fun. And I think it's a lot of fun to play both the Rebellion and the Empire. Like I said, if you're the Empire, you're trying to find the rebel base, so that's really interesting, trying to narrow down where it might be. And then when you're the Rebellion, it's really a nail-biting game as well, because you know where your base is, and there are some circumstances where the Empire is maybe only 1 planet away from where your base is, right next door to you, and the Empire player doesn't know it, and you're sitting there just biting your nails hoping they don't move their forces onto that planet. And yeah, like I said, there are different characters and different ships that you're moving around these different planets, and that can help with your attacking and with kind of your maneuvering. And there's these mission cards, like I said too, you're trying to do these different things to help you toward your end goal, and those missions really help with that. So very, very thematic, fun strategy, cat and mouse, and basically that whole hidden element to where the base is really adds a whole lot of tension to the game. So if you're a Star Wars fan, this is definitely one to try. This is definitely Star Wars in a box. If you're not a Star Wars fan, I don't know if you'd like it too much. Still might be worth a shot maybe one time, but this really appeals to mainly Star Wars fans. So for all you Star Wars fans out there, give Star Wars Rebellion a try.
Number 31.
All right, and the last game on my list today is game number 31. It was actually game number 14 on last year's list, so it's gone down 17 places. Not saying anything bad about the game. It's still in a great spot. Obviously, still in my top 50 favorite games of all time. I think this one has just suffered from what some of my other games on this list had suffered from previously, where I've just played this game so many times that it just can't hold spot number 14 any longer. But 31 is still extremely high, and I don't ever see this game leaving my top list, my top 100 list, if not my top 50 for a long time, because it's just that great of a game. It is a deck building game, one of my favorites, and that game is Star Realms. So in Star Realms, it's like pretty much any other deck building game. Everybody starts off with the same deck of cards. You've got some attack cards, you've got some cards that generate money, and you have this buy row that has 5 different cards that come out that you can purchase new ships to add to your deck. The better the ships you buy, obviously the better your deck gets. What I really enjoy about Star Realms is the factions. So you've got the Blob faction, which are green. You've got the Federation faction, which are the blue faction. You've got the Machines, which are red, and I forget the name of the yellow faction, but basically what I really love about these factions in this game is that they combo off of one another and actually get better the more you play down. So you might have 2 yellow cards in your hand where they might give you 1 attack each, but they might have a yellow effect on the card that says that if you play another yellow card along with it, it might add an extra damage. And if it has that on both cards, now all of a sudden you're doing 2 damage per card for a total of 4 damage instead of only the 1 or 2 damage. So it really combos off of one another. The red faction is really good at taking cards out of your deck or out of your hand and trashing them so they don't clog up your deck for those weaker cards, because really it's an efficiency generation type of game where you're trying to obviously make your deck more efficient and increase how good the cards are that are being drawn. So obviously you can't draw better and better cards if all you've got is half your deck full of starter cards that aren't that good. So the red faction helps you get rid of those. The blue faction helps you gain life, because in this game you're attacking your opponent. Each player starts off with 50 life, and if you can get their health points down to 0, you win. So blue is really good at generating more health points, which is a lot of fun. And the last faction I was leaving out is the Blob faction, and that's the green faction. And when they combo off of one another, they can do a lot of damage and hit really hard all at once for some extreme amounts of damage. I mean, we're talking 8 to 10 to 15 damage or more all in one turn. So the green faction is really cool too. But having said that, a part of the strategy is not really diversifying too much in this game. You actually want to combo off of maybe 1 or 2 colors the best you can, because if you get too many colors of too many different factions, then they're being drawn at different times and not with one another, so you're not getting the combo effect off of those cards. So you really want to focus on only 2 different colors, maybe 3 at the most, to combo those the best you can. Another really fun aspect of this game that you don't see in a whole lot of deck builders are you've got these cards that are called bases, and they're actually horizontal cards, not the vertical orientation, that when you play out, they actually stay in the battlefield until they're destroyed. So they don't go back into your discard pile, they don't get shuffled in with your deck or redrawn, so that's really neat. They actually stay out in front of you and guard you from taking damage. And on the base cards, you've got a shield icon in the corner that has a numerical value, and depending on what value that is, that's how much damage it can withstand until it's destroyed. And there's no damage counters in this game at all either, so if a shield, or if a base has a health shield of 5 and your opponent can only deal 4 damage to it, and now it's your turn, well, that base regenerates back up to 5 health again. So your opponent really has to have either at or above the amount of damage to do to that base all at once, or that base is staying out there and giving you that active benefit the longer it stays out in front on the board. So that's really, really cool, and adds a whole lot of pressure to your opponent as well. Your opponent's kind of panic because the more bases you get out there, the harder it is to get through them, and the more benefits you get too. So the whole presentation and how it's put together is just something of greatness. It's just one of the best deck building games out there. And there's another version of it called Hero Realms, which is basically the same game, but it's set in a fantasy setting. I haven't played that one, but I really, really do enjoy Star Realms with the spaceships and the whole space theme. So if you've never played a deck building game, well, try out Star Realms. They have a great app for it as well that you can put on your phone. And if you have played deck building games and you haven't played Star Realms, well, come on, people, just play it already. Pick it up, play it. It's very, very cheap. You can get it for about 10 to 15 bucks online. So just get out there and buy Star Realms. All right, everyone, and that is my list for today. That is games 35 down to 31. We are just getting into the cream of the crop now, and I really appreciate you all for joining me for today's list. Like always, if you like the content you're seeing and you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. That really helps us out a lot, and we really, really do appreciate it. Until next time, you all have a great day, and we will see you soon.